What's up, everyone? We're here for Christmas Day, locked on Bucks as Milwaukee pull off a very impressive win, a very enjoyable win, and a win that did not look all that likely for 44 minutes of this game, maybe even longer. But Giannis, in the end, I saw a tweet. Someone tweeted that Giannis is inevitable. He is inevitable. This was an absolute classic performance. Frank didn't know whether he was going to podcast, but he's contractually obligated to podcast when Giannis plays like that. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Bucks. I'm your host, Kane Pittman. You can see and hear me on this show daily, even on public holidays like Christmas Day, and also from my work over at ESPN. And joining me is the founder of BrewHoop.com and longtime voice of the podcast, Frank Madden. And we are just minutes removed here from the Bucks defeating the Celtics 117-113 on Christmas Day. Look, Frank, you can just, I know you just want to roll here. So let's get to Giannis. Let's talk about it. This was just an absolutely insane performance. 36 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks. He only needed 29 minutes to do that because let's remember, until this morning, it wasn't a guarantee that he was going to play. But we know what Giannis is like. The second that he was removed from protocols, I was like, yeah, good luck, bud. Good luck, training staff, if you think you're going to stop this man from playing. He took a little bit to get going. But ultimately, this is going to go down as one of the more memorable, maybe, I don't know where it ranks for you in terms of regular season performances, but on a massive stage. I tweeted it. I don't think there's anyone tougher in the league. This guy can play through anything. He looked like he was struggling a little bit. And then we saw what we've seen time and time again, whether it was through the playoff run or over the last couple of years. You just can't stop this man. No one is tougher. No one has more will than him to succeed when he really wants to. And tonight was a classic.
Yeah, first half, 3 for 8, 7 points in 13 minutes, I think it was. So you do the math and figure out, second half, 29 points on 10 out of 15 shooting in 16 minutes, I guess. I didn't realize he only played 29 minutes, but yeah, I mean, you knew that obviously his cardio may not be where it needed, coming back from the COVID absence of out, 10, 11 days here. But for him to, deliver this performance, especially that second half, coming off the layoff, and I tweeted out. I mean, it felt like this was just one of those hump games where the Bucks just dig themselves a huge hole. Boston played very well in the first quarter. In particular, Jaylen Brown came out on fire. Bucks just did not look sharp, really, in any phase of the game. I think they started 1 out of 10 on threes, and you see it, like, this isn't unique to the Bucks, but a lot of times, I always think of the Minnesota game earlier this year where also Giannis had 40-point game, and they needed to exert so much energy just to get back and try to climb and get almost to getting even, and then they just kind of kept falling back. And we saw that again tonight in the third quarter. They get to, I think it was 89-88 at one point, and then they lose a little bit of touching distance. They come back. Chris Middleton, the reserves, get them to 94-90 going into the fourth quarter. But then Jabari Parker, our old friend Jabari Parker, basically outdueling Giannis. He was defending Giannis. Giannis forced a couple shots, had a turnover that Jabari intercepted, and the Celtics go up 102. I think it was 102-90 a couple minutes into the fourth quarter. That's why you're saying for 44 minutes, this just did not look like the outcome that you were going to get. So, kudos to the Bucks. They kind of stuck with it. Did not have their A game, obviously, tonight. But they just kind of kept grinding and, ended up 12 out of 33 from three, which, it evened out a bit, right? We always sort of talk about the 3-point shooting, especially when Giannis is not in the game, when he's not playing, that, games just come down to 3-point shooting. At the end of the day today, it was 17 out of 45, 38%. Boston ended up cooling down a fair bit. They were 16 out of 38 at one point, finished 1 for 7 to close the game, whereas the Bucks finished up 12 out of 33. So yeah, I mean, I think again the 3-point shooting narrowed, but it's like at the end of the day, we have a Giannis, right? We have a Hulk. Points in the paint, 56-28 for the Bucks. They were in that zone, which, let's just say, had mixed results, especially because of Boston's 3-point shooting. But Boston pretty much is living and dying with jump shots all day long, and the Bucks, even without really a lot of precision in terms of shooting today, They end up just really bludgeoning them inside, 15 offensive rebounds. And at the end of the day, just enough Giannis, especially in that second half, and enough contributions from other guys, including Bobby Portis, also returning from the protocols. But then, I mean, how about Wes Matthews, man? We've talked a lot about Wes Matthews this week, but to see him hit that monster shot, the go-ahead shot with 30 seconds left, after an emotional week for him losing his grandmother, comes back with that huge game against the Rockets, and now in the closing lineup, we talked about him and his opportunity to maybe beat out guys like Shemi, Jordan Nwora, and Rodney Hood for minutes. He did that today, and man, he really earned them. He was part of that small lineup that they used to close the game, and nobody hit a bigger shot than Wes Matthews.
So the lineups was one thing that I had noted down to talk about here, because you talk about the actual closing lineup that they went to. And then earlier in the fourth quarter, this has been something that I've been fascinated about, because Dante DiVincenzo comes back in this game as well. And, little bit of rust, although some people may say it's not rust if he's missing some layups. But listen, bit of rust for Dante. And not only a bit of rust, he looked like he was just really excited to be out there. Probably a little bit of added energy. It's been so long since he played, so I don't really care.
Plus 13. Hey, plus 13 differential for Dante, even though he only had 13 minutes. Yeah.
Well, listen, you're not going to hear me criticize Dante DiVincenzo from this game. It was just good to have him back. But in the fourth quarter, we saw a lineup where it was Drew, Dante, Grayson Allen, and Chris, and then Bobby Portis was out there. But this is one thing that we've discussed a little bit. If you swap Bobby Portis with Giannis, is that the type of combination you can go with? I think defensively, if Wes Matthews is a guy that can maybe swap out with Grayson Allen there, then you have more defensive versatility. And as you said, I mean, he's hit some big shots, and he does seem to be playing inspired right now. I know he spoke a lot about it, but in terms of the wild card players with him and Boogie Cousins, who tonight, but he still hit the offensive glass. So you get 9 offensive rebounds out of Bobby Portis and DeMarcus Cousins. They're at least playing some physical basketball down there. But we should not gloss over Giannis, though, Frank. I need you to dive into Giannis a little bit more. You kind of went into the three-point shooting. I'm almost a little disappointed you went down that path. What are you thinking watching this performance for Giannis? I know nothing really surprises us anymore, but someone tweeted me and said this felt like Game 6 against Phoenix, and the reason that reference was made was because there was big block shots from Giannis. There was ridiculous recoveries in 2-on-1 situations. There was a Drew Holiday steal, which was very similar to Devin Booker in Game 6. There was just no lob on the other end. But in terms of taking over a game and having highlight plays on both ends of the floor, I can buy that. I can see that similarity with a crazy 5-serve for him.
Yeah, I mean, it was the block on the late possession against Robert Williams, right? Jason Tatum. I forget who's guarding Jason Tatum, but I think it was a closeout. He ends up getting a blow by off a closeout and driving to the rim, and this is Giannis having to play a 2-on-1, having to stunt just that little bit of Jason Tatum to make Jason Tatum not want to take the shot himself. I think the Bucks were up. This is the Bucks. Were the Bucks up 1 or 3 at that point? I can't recall. I think maybe they were. Do you recall?
Not off the top of my head, but
yeah. I think that was when they were up 3, because then it went out of bounds. They did the review of the
exactly.
Williams out of bounds, then Chris gets the foul to kind of close it. But in any case, for him to be able to stun at Jason Tatum just enough to force a pass, and then the recovery coming back, and then meeting Robert Williams, Robert Williams every year shoots 70% from the field. Okay. It's remarkable. This guy does not miss shots. He's a terrific rim runner, terrific guy on lobs and alley-oops. Boogie and Bobby Portis, Boogie in particular, looked like a statue on a couple plays today. And I mean, he had that one tip dunk, which might have been a goal basket interference over Giannis as well. So, we know what Robert Williams can do when he's just finishing at the rim. And for Giannis to get up at the apex, I think if you took a picture, snapped a picture of that block, I think it was on the exact same side of the court and the exact same side of the hoop as the block on DeAndre Ayton last year in the finals. It's just one of those plays that the number of guys in the league that can make that play, including both the kind of help, stunt, and the recovery. I mean, there's just very, very few guys that not only make that play, but you almost expect them to make, you almost expect Giannis to be able to make that play, which, is just wild. And I think offensively, he had 3 jump shots tonight. But for the most part, this was, a force of nature Giannis game. This was about Giannis just bulldozing his way to the rim. It was very satisfying to see Marcus Smart as per usual, tried to slide in with sort of an undercutting offensive foul attempt or charge attempt, which Giannis he barely even touched Smart. He jumped that high basically in the third quarter as the Bucks were making kind of one of their initial pushes there in the second half. And fortunately, the Celtics challenged and it was not overturned. So the basketball gods were smiling on the Bucks in that regard, or at least they were meting out true justice. So yeah, I mean, he was just kind of everywhere, and I love that play late, and it was the Bucks down 2, and Giannis really wanted the ball top of the key. Drew was on the left wing, and
That's
Drew
exactly about to bring this up. This was
Drew
awesome.
did not pass him the ball, and you're like, okay. And Drew ends up driving and kind of worming his way to the baseline and gets up in the air right under the basket. He's got no angle to take a shot, and Giannis, though smartly, doesn't put his head down, doesn't sit there complaining at the 3-point arc. He dives to the rim, just comes cutting down the middle of the lane, catches it, finishes through the contact for the end one. He missed the free throw, unfortunately, so didn't give the Bucks the lead at that point. But yeah, I mean, he was, obviously this was about as big of a performance as you can expect from a guy coming off a layoff for, an illness that, we don't know for sure exactly how he was impacted by it, but, Chris Middleton sort of alluded to potentially, he said something about like, it was tough. We weren't sure exactly if we meant like if he wasn't doing well physically or if he was just, not happy being away from the team, maybe both. So you never know, right? I mean, we've seen players come back and not necessarily have, look like themselves coming back from a COVID absence. But, today for him to come back, I thought Bud obviously did a nice job kind of managing his minutes so that he was there late, and kudos to his teammates as well. I mean, Giannis was a -1 in this game. So the Bucks won the minutes that he was on the bench. And that obviously ended up being crucial because the Bucks were kind of spent, pretty much the whole game digging themselves out of a hole.
Yeah, I don't know what he would have been heading into the fourth quarter, but obviously he was on the floor during that late game run. So early in the game, you already pointed to it, but they would get back to a couple possessions or one possession, and the Celtics would quickly run it back out to double digits. And it's like, okay, well, in my head anyway, I was thinking, well, has Giannis got another run in him, or is this just going to have to be the Bucks shooting their way out of it? And the third quarter, when they were raining down all those threes, I was like, okay, maybe this is where the game breaks open a little bit. But when they went back down double digits, I thought that they were going to struggle to come back. So being Christmas Day, and obviously it's fun to win on Christmas Day. We mentioned last year the fact that they played there, but there was no crowd. It was a weird game. They blew out the Warriors. It's like, okay, whatever. This felt like a big game. It felt like the atmosphere was rocking in there for sure, even though, again, it was probably a frustrating game to watch for a lot of it. I had a lot of people tweeting at me saying, this game sucks. I hate this game. This is a frustrating game. And they're not wrong, but they ended up winning. And a lot of the times people criticize the crowd, but I thought it sounded certainly pretty loud in there anyway. The Bucks must be 3-1. Is that right in this run now? They beat the Knicks. They beat the Warriors last year, and the Celtics today. Obviously, we don't talk about that game in Philadelphia a few years back. But
Christmas Day champion Sixers. Christmas Day champion Sixers in 2019, man. It's they're just tough.
They're going through the process, all right? It's just a process. The Sixers
hang the banner. We still haven't seen the Christmas Day banner. That's the only banner the Sixers can raise, but maybe one day.
Hopefully it's the only one they get moving forward as well. We're happy to see the Sixers lose at all times. By the way, did you see, not to get too distracted here, but did you see Clutch Sports tweet out today the at Ben Simmons retweet for All-Star? Could you imagine if Ben Simmons only played one game this year and it was the All-Star game? I think I'd be into that.
No, I can't imagine that. That would legitimately be the funniest thing ever, right? If he was voted in, and then they had to decide if he was. I mean, like I guess you would play because fans. I mean, this is also why you have like the player vote and the coaches vote and all that other stuff, right? Because and the media, right? Like it's the kind of fans. Well, I guess fans, players, and media, right? That vote for the starters, and then the coaches pick the sub. So I think there's enough fail safes in place that we won't ever have to worry about that. And it's also just weird to think about because Ben Simmons isn't popular, right? So like, who likes Ben Simmons, right? I mean, Kane, you're an Australian. I feel like even Australians don't really like Ben Simmons that much, given he never plays for the Aussies. So yeah, that's funny. But anyway, enough with him. Enough with the Sixers. The Celtics had won the first couple of games against the Bucks, including the last time Giannis played. That was, a relatively full strength for this year Bucks team. They had, you had Chris, Giannis, and Drew all in that game. That was the game that Chris hyperextended his knee in the second half, but he was terrible before he got hurt. Giannis didn't look good in that game. Was he still nursing the calf injury or whatever? Like, they look bad in that game for the most part. And so, again, like, I don't think the Bucks are sitting around like worrying that like the Celtics are gonna, beat them in the playoffs or something like that. But even if it's just maybe for fan sanity and our own psychological purposes, I think it's important that, look, especially from a seeding perspective, like, you have these home games, you actually do have pretty much all your guys back other than Brook Lopez at this point. The Celtics were missing some guys, including Al Horford. It was kind of funny. Like, the Celtics had this mile-long injury list, but it was mostly like random dudes that like I've never heard of. So they had obviously kind of most of their good players other than Al Horford, but and Dennis Schroeder did miss did miss today due to a late addition to the health and safety protocols as well. He had that one big game against the Bucks and then was really bad the second game. But I mean, again, the Celtics always look better to me when I watch them than their record indicates. I thought they would be a top four, maybe like a fourth contender for that fourth spot in the East this year. And they've obviously, they've had injuries. Jaylen Brown's missed about half the games. I mean, I still think they could be a good team. Again, would I be afraid of them in a playoff matchup? No. I mean, I think the Bucks obviously should win a playoff matchup, but hey, they just beat you pretty handily in Boston a couple weeks ago. So, Christmas Day, I mean, you don't want to come out and lay an egg. And, fortunately, especially in that first half, that's what the Bucks were doing. So, the Bucks have not been a team the last 2 years that have had a lot of like big comeback wins. And so I think to do it again, does this prove to the Bucks that they can do this stuff in the playoffs? No. Look, they did this in Game 5 of the NBA Finals in Phoenix, right? They had a huge comeback and won, a massive game. I don't think they need to win these games to kind of prove something to themselves. But I think, again, just trying to get guys back into a rhythm, trying to figure out some different things that you can do defensively. I think it's obviously just important to kind of build some momentum and win some games, especially now that you're actually relatively healthy compared to a lot of other teams.
Yeah, and we should also acknowledge that while the Celtics had a couple of players out, they did have Peyton Pritchard, who scored 90 points in a scrimmage game in the offseason. So let's not forget that Peyton Pritchard was on the floor playing big minutes. Now, the one thing I will say about the Bucks, and I was just trying to think as you were wrapping up that point there in terms of national TV games, because when you talk about when you watch the Celtics and they always seem to play better, and obviously they play well against the Bucks typically, so that obviously skews that forward a little bit. But I wonder how people picture the Bucks, because when I hear them talk about this Milwaukee team, everyone's like, they're the favorites. They're the favorites to win the whole thing. We don't even worry about them. They're going to be fine. And I think about opening night. Now I think about Christmas Day. And it does feel like this team is on a big stage, and mostly because of Giannis. He's like, all right, we're making sure that we make a statement today and we're going to win this game. But I think the other thing that helps Giannis's cause for is the MVP discussion. And I was thinking about this yesterday before this game, just in regards to the game totals this year, because I thought, well, Giannis has missed the last 4 or 5 games. And typically if you miss like a 1 to 2 week stretch, you say, okay, how does that hurt his case? Clearly that can't be a factor this year because everyone's missing this period when it comes to health and safety protocols. But he has still put up some of his biggest performance on the biggest stage in front of everyone. And I know that now they're sort of expanding this MVP conversation to Giannis, Steph, Durant, obviously Jokic as well, although it seems that narrative-wise it's going to be hard for Jokic, even though that's not necessarily fair. But this is the type of game that I would suspect if you're into listening to, obviously after you listen to Locked On Bucks, if you're into listening to national podcasts the next few days, I imagine there's going to be lots of Giannis talk, and I imagine there's going to be people jumping on board to say he's at the top of the MVP race or very close to.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is just like, for the narratives in season, a lot of it's just making sure you're part of the mind share and part of the discussion. And bottom line is when you're out for 1 to 2 weeks, you just drop out of that discussion to an extent, right? And so for him to come back with a statement game on Christmas Day when everybody's watching is a nice reminder to people that he's having an awesome year. And the Bucks have not been, necessarily world beaters, but when they've been healthy, they've obviously been very good, and they've won, way more games than they've lost. Or I think they've only, what are they, like probably like 12-2 now or something like that with Drew and Chris and Giannis, something on that order. So yeah, I think, maybe we're getting a little bit greedy, but at the end of the day, I think we all want to see Giannis win that third MVP. 3 MVPs is a very rarefied group to be in. And this is obviously a very unique opportunity for him to potentially, win a third MVP. I think it's, interesting. We're recording this right after the game. The Suns and Warriors are playing. I think, probably Steph, if the Warriors, I think so much is going to come down to team record. And so, we'll see. Steph has obviously not been able to stay healthy the past couple of years. KD has also had problems staying healthy. He's been in the protocol. I think he's missing today's game as well. He had a great run of games before he went into the health and safety protocols. And Jokic just sort of like continues to toil in relative obscurity, putting up statistically the best numbers of anyone. I think if you look at all the advanced metrics, like it's not even close. He's pretty much way out ahead. And some of the kind of advanced metrics like EPM and things like that. It's like BPM. He's just way out ahead. So yeah, I mean, I think if you're the Bucks, selfishly, we know, yes, on the one hand, the regular season, it's just kind of like, all right, get it through as healthy as you can, get seated high enough that, you're not in like a bad spot. Ideally, you'd love to have home court throughout the playoffs, or at least throughout the Eastern bracket. But yeah, I mean, as a Giannis fan, I think we would love to see him make a real run for that. And, I think when it comes down to it, I think KD, Steph, and Jokic are the 3 real competitors. I saw like NBA.com and were like Chris Paul was now 4th over Giannis, and I was like, whatever. Like,
just have to put a token guy in, right?
Chris Paul's great. The Suns have been an awesome story, but like Chris Paul is not. He's not a serious MVP candidate over those other 4 guys. Like, sorry, and he's another guy who obviously has had hard time staying healthy for long stretches as well. I mean, again, I think CP is the most valuable player on the Suns, but I mean, even that is like kind of debatable. But they obviously played really well with Devin Booker out here of late. So yeah, I mean, for Giannis to do this, put up the monster numbers, obviously it's fun to watch, fun to kind of send him rocketing back into that MVP discussion. And we'll see how it continues to evolve. But again, I think so much of it's just going to come down to health, because we know he's going to put up monster MVP caliber numbers. So I think just so much of it just comes down to, can he stay healthy? Hopefully, once now he's out of the protocol, hopefully he's, healed up, maybe some of those other nagging kind of calf, other maybe injuries that he's been carrying. So hopefully he's feeling good, and hopefully he can, just not miss many games the rest of the way. And then if the Bucks can be a top 2 seed in the East, I think probably if Steph is like the 1 seed in the West, you may very well need Giannis to lead the Bucks to, either the top spot or the second spot in the East, just to kind of keep that team success kind of component of it for a lot of voters, at least roughly even. Because obviously that was important for Giannis in the 2 years he won. The Bucks had the best record, and that was obviously a big part of him winning. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that team success doesn't matter, even if maybe it's sometimes, it can be maybe a little bit larger of a component, right? I think Giannis should have been MVP, even if the Bucks had finished second or third in the East those years. But yeah, all good things when the Bucks win and Giannis puts up monster numbers.
Yeah, shouldn't say we, but Tim Bontemps does that ESPN poll thing, and I think we did that voting in like October, I think it was, and I think I had Giannis third at that point behind KD and Steph, but or it might have been early November. I can't remember when we did it, but I had CP3 fifth, which was behind the obvious 4. And it was just like, well, I can't really bring myself to put DeMar DeRozan in an MVP top 5. And the Phoenix Suns are so damn good that I feel like they should have some guy up there, but I can't ever possibly imagine him winning it. But anyway, if we did that again right now, I think Giannis would be, Giannis, Steph, whatever, however the week is going. Honestly, that's the way these type of things go. I did want to ask before we finish up this pod specifically about the rotation. You pointed to some of the guys, and it's crazy that this felt like as healthy as the Bucks have been all season. And you looked at the bench and you're like, oh my goodness, this team is stacked now. Look at these lineups they're playing out there. So some of the guys that did pick up the DMP tonight, Thanasis, Rodney Hood, Jordan Nwora, Shemi Ojale, as you mentioned. So, depth pieces, which is what we thought. And we really asked the question with guys like Rodney Hood and Shemi Ojale, whether they would really force their way in there. Naturally, they've added Boogie and Wes Matthews in that period as well. But that was a 10-man rotation tonight that honestly, I can't really see anyone moving in or out of. Obviously, Boogie, we'll see what happens there, but it looks pretty solid. Obviously, there's going to be other injuries, and who knows what else happens along the way. But this was about as solid as we've seen it, and it was honestly just cool to see some of. There wasn't one lineup where I was like, oh, I don't know what's going on here. I think there might have been some Boogie and Bobby Portis minutes there, which is interesting. I don't know how often they'll do that moving forward, but other than that, looking pretty good, and it's going to be hard for some of those other guys that we've spent a lot of time talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think as much as people have sort of caricaturized Bud a little bit as being like he plays tons of guys, but I mean, we've talked about it a lot in the past that Bud has never played as many guys in the rotation, like on a night to night basis, as maybe people assumed he did. And obviously, we saw it in the playoffs last year. They went to a much shorter rotation than I think maybe people were afraid that they might. I think, yeah, I mean, you look at the guys available right now. I think in an ideal world, obviously, you hope that Brook Lopez slots back into your starting center spot at some point later in the season, and then at that point, you've got Bobby, George Hill, Pat Connaughton, Dante DiVincenzo, as I'd say the four that you would expect under normal circumstances would be playing every night, and then I think there is that 10th spot, but hasn't always played 10 guys, during regular season action. Tonight, Wes Matthews plays 18 minutes. Dante played the fewest minutes off the bench, 16. So there weren't any fake, 9.5 guy stuff tonight. It was like a legit 10-man rotation. Part of that obviously likely stemming from the fact that Giannis was obviously not at full strength. So, Bobby and Boogie, you would have thought would play more, but Boogie only plays 17 minutes tonight, which I'd say is much closer to what he should be playing in the regular season than 28, 30 minutes, right? Which is what he played here on this back-to-back. So yeah, I mean, I think you just cross your fingers that group can stay healthy and that you can sort of mix and match and find some things that work. I think Dante, he comes in, misses those 2 layups on his first shot attempts. It felt like, womp womp, Dante, he's back, right? But hits a pretty important 3. I mean, pretty much every 3 the Bucks hit was important when they were down a lot of points, and he hit a no hesitation 3-pointer from the top of the key. No turnovers, didn't commit a foul. And again, I thought it was kind of funny. The Bucks really struggled at the point of attack for long stretches tonight, and that was one of the reasons they went to a zone for a lot of the kind of like middle 2 quarters. And we can argue about the zone because the zone, you can get open threes against the zone typically. But as I said, it at least I think took Boogie out of and to a lesser extent Bobby out of some of the pick and roll stuff. And it was funny then when they went back to more conventional defense, Dante getting over screens, I was like, oh, okay. Dante can actually get over screens, right? He's a better defender than Grayson Allen. Grayson obviously he's coming back from whatever his illness was tonight, 0 for 4 from the field, only 2 points. He obviously was pretty anonymous. So having Dante back and hopefully getting him up to speed sooner rather than later. Our friend Eric Name posted a video pregame of him doing like a tip dunk where his head wasn't quite at the rim, but physically it was like, oh, Dante, you look pretty spry. He doesn't look like he's a shell of himself or something like that athletically, which is really important that physically he's there yet. But yeah, I mean, to have Wes Matthews pop up and give you a switchable wing defender who can kind of guard smaller guys or switch up to guard slightly bigger guys. Again, he's not going to guard like centers or something like a PJ Tucker could. We'll see how real it is, right? I mean, Wes is older. He's got to stay healthy too. But when his 3-point shot is going down, he was 2 for 2 today. We've seen him hit a lot of threes in the past week. Obviously, that's a huge boost, especially on a game like today where 3-point shooting was obviously not great for long stretches for the Bucks. So yeah, you just have to be excited for Wes, and we'll see. I mean, I'm sure we're going to see these other guys get opportunities again at some point here, most likely because of injuries. But like I said, I don't know. I want to believe in Wes Matthews. I almost want to temper myself because I don't want to be naive about it and be too nostalgic about rooting for Wes Matthews. He's got a great story, obviously, with the hometown connection, having been here before, leaving. They win a championship when he leaves. Now he comes back. Losing his grandmother this week. There's just been a lot of ups and downs to his story, but it's been obviously these past few games have been really fun to see him actually make plays. I mean, he even had to put the ball on the floor and had a 3-point play off a dribble drive tonight. I think he had a similar one yesterday or in the Dallas game. Had another one where he had to drive and he got just blocked to hell. But yeah, I mean, he's been solid when they've asked him to give them some minutes. And I think, ultimately we have not seen them go to like switch everything lineups very much lately. We saw that a lot early in the season. They've defended at a pretty statistically high level without doing as much of that lately. But I do kind of wonder now you're starting to get your guys back, including having Wes now as part of this. He's obviously able to switch between guards and wings very easily, and he's pretty strong. So you can put him on fours. We saw him defending Christian Wood, taking charges, doing stuff over the past couple of weeks as well. So you don't want to get too high on kind of what he might be. I think again he's more like the 10th guy than the 6th or 7th guy. But hopefully, again, maybe he's a guy that gives you a lot more of the course of regular season than maybe you assumed, given he wasn't even on a roster 3 weeks ago.
All right, so the Bucks get a day off here, then they make a trip down to Florida for a few days. I don't know why. I think they had 2 home games in a row against Orlando, I think, unless my memory's failing me. Now they got 2 away games against Orlando. It's a bit of a weird schedule, but anyway, I'm sure Brook Lopez, if he's up and healthy and well and able to sit on a plane down to Florida, I'm sure he'll be excited. Maybe he's already there. Who knows? But either way, that will be fun. But before we wrap this up, it is Christmas. It is right now 5 p.m. Christmas Day where you are, Frank. So I'm sure dinner is about to go down. I don't know if you're hungry, but what's the day been like for you? What's the rest of the day look like? Are you going to watch a replay of Bucks Celtics? Watch the rest of the games? What are we up to?
Well, I don't think I'd want to watch more than the last 6 minutes, right?
True.
That might be kind of painful. I've got the Packers on DVR, so I'm going to catch up on that. We do a big turkey dinner here for Christmas Day. We open Christmas presents on Christmas Eve because my mom's German. That's like the German tradition: open presents on Christmas Eve. So I watched. I got to watch my daughter open Christmas presents last night. Put together some Legos last night. We've been putting together some more Legos today, so that's fun for me. She's moved up from the Duplo Legos to the like regular sized Legos, so it's not easy. She's technically they're like for 4+. She's turns 4 in January, so I said, you know what? Let's upgrade. Let's see how she does. She'll need a little more help. So yeah, so it was a fun. When you're old, it's more fun just seeing how your kids kind of go through Christmas. But yeah, that's been what we did here. And by the way, Justin joked that maybe I missed the game the other day because I was at Rockies. I had my oldest friend from elementary school over with his kids, and we were like, let's go get some Rockies and bring it in. So we got 2 pizzas from Rockies for lunch that day. I brought it home, introduced our kids to some Rockies pizza for lunch. So not that far off. That wasn't why I missed why I didn't pod the other night. It was more just general hang out with family time. But yeah, I've got two Rockies visits in so far here in the last week.
I love it. When are you back? How long are you in town for?
We don't know actually. We drove, so we'll see. I have to go back to work on like roughly January 3rd. So I'll be here probably for at least the next few days, and then we'll see. What about you? What did you do for Christmas?
Well, I'll just quickly say, so if anyone wants to catch up with Frank, if you just hang around any Rockies branch for long enough, you'll probably see him shuffle in there. Well, it's a day after
the Bayshore Rockies is my spot. So yeah, I had lunch with Eric there last week. So yeah, if you just hang out there between like 11 and noon most weekdays for the rest of this calendar year, you'll probably see me once or twice.
Surely, Frank, you can take the laptop down there, hook into some Wi-Fi, and do a podcast from Rockies and eat pizza while we do a pod. Can we organize that in the next week? I think we could probably make that happen.
We need to get you to America, and then we'll do the live pod from the Rockies. That's just the obvious solution here.
That's true. Well, it's pretty early over here. It's the day after Christmas, 10 a.m. This was a 6:30 a.m. tip, and as usual, Christmas is a pretty big day. So when the alarm went off to watch this game, I was like, "Am I going to watch this live?" I'm like, I don't know if I can be bothered, but obviously I did. But no, I got to go to work today. There's Australian basketball on, so I'm about to head to work, make some TV, Frank. But if you see this, wait, let me work my fingers out. If you see this Giannis thing, little framed photo, it's hard to see. It's a bit far away, but my little brother did give me that. It's just, classic Giannis.
Championship?
Yeah.
Both trophies?
Exactly, yeah. So we're going to get that in the background of the podcast. I'm not at home at the moment, but I just wanted to slot it up there. It's a little bit hard to see. But that was a good day. More basketball this afternoon. And
Kane, this are you going to be suited up for some TV appearances here next day or two? Is it that kind of that kind of performance? Because you do like the studio show where you're like seated and you're wearing like casual clothes, and then you do the more proper one. You, by the way, I'm digging some of the looks. You've had some nice blazers on. I like the light blue blazer in particular. So you're bringing some good looks. And I think you do that one with like Andrew Gaze, right? Who's like basically the most famous Australian basketball player ever. So I mean, this has been pretty cool for you. I'm enjoying seeing the clips of Kane Pittman, TV star in Australia.
yeah, I know. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to have me on the desk with Andrew Gaze every Friday night. But Friday night is suits. Saturday and Sunday is t-shirt and jeans. So today is just casual, sitting on the couch, try not to fall asleep at 5 p.m. the day after Christmas after you've been up all day and eaten and drank way too much on Christmas Day. So I'm just trying to get through the day today. But we had to podcast. That's the main point. We had to do this podcast.
I said, you asked me like
6 minute mark in the fourth quarter. Frank said,
and I was just like, and I was just like, let's just skip it today. They're probably gonna lose anyway. It's Christmas, whatever. And then, with like 30 seconds left, I popped back into the DMs and was like, maybe we should pod after all for this one. And you were expecting it, so.
Yeah, I was already setting up. I knew what message was about to come down. But let's leave it there. It was a fun one for the Bucks. They win 117-113. We're glad they won. I might have been generous with the 44 minutes that this looked like a loss. It could have been 46. But either way, the Bucks pick up the win, which was fun. Hopefully, everyone's safe and enjoying their holiday period here over these days and listening to a little bit of Locked On Bucks after this Packers game. We really appreciate it. We'll be back through the week. As I mentioned, a couple of games against Orlando, hopefully a couple of wins against Orlando. We'll get to that when they roll around. But for now, for Frank and myself, Merry Christmas to everyone. And
Merry Christmas.
Safe. We'll speak to you guys.